Revenge feels powerful in the imagination. People believe getting even will finally bring closure, satisfaction, or emotional peace after betrayal, humiliation, or pain. But psychology shows that revenge rarely heals emotional wounds the way people expect. Instead of creating peace, it often keeps anger, obsession, and emotional pain alive even longer. In this video, you'll discover why revenge almost never feels as satisfying as imagined, what actually happens inside the brain during revenge, and why letting go is psychologically more powerful than getting even. Today we will talk about why revenge never actually feels good. So, before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. 1. Revenge feels powerful in the imagination. When someone experiences betrayal, humiliation, rejection, or emotional pain, the mind naturally begins imagining revenge. People fantasize about getting even because revenge creates the illusion of power, justice, control, and emotional closure. In the imagination, revenge seems satisfying because the brain believes it will erase emotional pain or restore damaged self-worth. The person imagines finally feeling calm, validated, or emotionally free after making the other person suffer equally. This desire for revenge is deeply human and connected to emotional survival instincts. Throughout history, humans developed strong emotional reactions toward unfairness, betrayal, and disrespect because protecting status and social boundaries once played an important role in survival. However, while revenge may feel emotionally satisfying in fantasy, psychology shows that reality rarely matches the emotional expectations people imagine beforehand. 2. The brain confuses revenge with healing. One major reason revenge feels tempting is because the brain mistakes punishment for emotional healing. When someone hurts us emotionally, the brain searches for ways to reduce feelings of helplessness, humiliation, anger, or injustice. Revenge creates a temporary sense of psychological control because it shifts the mind from victimhood toward action. The brain believes that making the other person suffer will somehow restore emotional balance internally. However, emotional wounds are not healed through retaliation alone. Pain caused by betrayal, rejection, or disrespect usually comes from damaged trust, emotional loss, insecurity, or grief, not simply from the event itself. Revenge may provide a brief emotional release, but it rarely repairs the deeper emotional damage underneath. Instead of ending pain, revenge often keeps the mind emotionally attached to the original hurt for much longer. 3. Revenge keeps negative emotions alive. One surprising psychological truth is that revenge often prolongs emotional suffering instead of ending it. When people obsess over getting even, they repeatedly replay the painful experience mentally. The brain stays emotionally connected to anger, resentment, humiliation, and bitterness because revenge requires continued emotional focus on the person who caused the pain. Instead of moving forward emotionally, the mind becomes trapped in the past. Studies in psychology suggest that people who actively seek revenge often experience increased stress, anger, rumination, and emotional exhaustion afterward. This happens because revenge reinforces the emotional memory instead of helping the brain process and release it. The more attention given to resentment, the stronger the emotional connection becomes psychologically. 4. The satisfaction of revenge is usually temporary. Even when revenge succeeds, the emotional satisfaction often fades surprisingly quickly. The brain may experience a short burst of pleasure, validation, or emotional release initially, because revenge activates reward-related emotional systems temporarily. However, this feeling rarely lasts. Once the emotional excitement disappears, people often realize the deeper pain remains unchanged internally. The betrayal still happened. The trust is still broken. The emotional wound still exists. Some individuals even feel guilt, emptiness, regret, or disappointment afterward, because the revenge failed to provide the emotional closure they imagined. Human emotions are far more complicated than simple payback. The brain expects revenge to create peace, but emotional healing usually requires processing pain, rebuilding self-worth, and emotionally detaching from the experience instead. 5. Revenge creates psychological obsession. Revenge can easily become psychologically addictive because anger itself is emotionally stimulating. Strong emotions activate stress hormones and adrenaline, creating emotional intensity that keeps the mind highly focused. Some individuals become trapped in cycles of obsession, where thoughts about revenge dominate attention constantly. The person begins mentally replaying conversations, imagining scenarios, monitoring the other person, or planning emotional retaliation repeatedly. This obsession slowly consumes emotional energy and mental peace. Instead of hurting only the target, revenge often damages the emotional well-being of the person seeking it. The mind becomes unable to let go because emotional focus remains locked onto resentment and injustice continuously. Over time, the desire for revenge can become emotionally exhausting and psychologically destructive. 6. Unhealed ego often drives revenge. Many revenge fantasies are deeply connected to wounded ego and damaged self-worth. Rejection, disrespect, betrayal, humiliation, or abandonment can trigger feelings of inadequacy, weakness, or emotional inferiority internally. Revenge then becomes an attempt to restore pride, dignity, or emotional superiority. The person wants to prove they are not powerless, forgettable, or weak. However, ego-driven revenge rarely creates genuine emotional confidence because self-worth built on hurting others remains emotionally unstable. Real confidence comes from emotional healing, growth, boundaries, and self-respect, not from controlling or punishing another person. This is why some individuals continue seeking revenge repeatedly without ever feeling emotionally satisfied internally. The deeper insecurity remains unresolved beneath the anger. 7. Letting go is psychologically harder, but healthier. Many people misunderstand forgiveness or letting go. Letting go does not mean approving harmful behavior, forgetting pain, or pretending betrayal never happened. It means refusing to allow resentment and emotional attachment to continue controlling your mental life. Psychologically, letting go is often far harder than revenge because it requires emotional acceptance instead of emotional reaction. The brain naturally wants justice, answers, and emotional closure. However, true healing usually begins when someone stops emotionally feeding the pain constantly. People who let go gradually reclaim emotional energy, mental clarity, and inner peace, because their identity is no longer centered around anger or victimhood. Emotional freedom comes not from winning against someone else, but from no longer being psychologically controlled by what happened. 8. Real peace comes from moving forward. The cold truth about revenge is that it often promises emotional freedom while secretly extending emotional suffering. Revenge focuses attention backward instead of forward. It keeps the emotional wound alive because the mind remains connected to pain, anger, and resentment continuously. True healing usually comes from rebuilding life, restoring self-worth, creating healthy boundaries, learning from the experience, and emotionally moving beyond the situation entirely. People who genuinely heal often reach a point where revenge no longer feels necessary because their peace no longer depends on another person's suffering. In the end, revenge rarely feels as satisfying as imagined, because emotional wounds cannot truly be healed through punishment alone. Real peace comes when someone stops carrying the emotional weight of the pain, and finally chooses growth over bitterness. If you liked this video and would like to see more like it, please give it the thumbs up, leave a comment, and click the button to subscribe.